In this episode, once again, we speak to Mauro Stara. He is founder of Six Pack CEO, is a peak performance expert and trusted advisor to successful CEOs and business owners. Known as the last resort for those exhausted from mainstream approaches, Mauro specializes in resolving challenges where others have failed by prioritizing advanced blood work testing and personalized coaching. He tackles the root cause of stagnation and hormones. With his guidance, clients achieve lifelong sustainable transformations, reclaiming vitality and confidence amidst demanding schedules. And in today's episode, we're speaking about how your appearance impacts your income. Welcome, welcome. This is Gull Khan, your money mindset expert. And once again, we have the wonderful Mauro Stara. Welcome, Mauro.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming back with us. We had a fabulous conversation with you on Friday feature. We had to have you back today for Money Talkies. Thank you so much. Mauro, once again, people have heard your intro. They know how fabulous you are, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
Yeah, I'm the CEO and founder of Six Pack CEO, and I run a health coaching business primarily for men over 40 who want to get back in shape.
Brilliant. So today's topic will be of interest to a lot of people then, because today we're talking about how your health and your physical appearance impacts your income. Now, we were having a conversation off camera before, Mauro, but I want you to explain to us, why have we kept this title? Why is it so important? Why? We work out, how, but let's do it this way. Why is it important? Why is your health and your physical appearance important for your income?
Yeah, there's a famous saying that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And while that may be true that, when you have a book and let's say before the Amazon days where you could just go online and order books, you go in a library and look through, few books and you would see the cover and there's no like quick summaries online. You just see the cover, maybe the backside, and that would be your first impression, and you don't have time to read the first few pages of all these books. You got to pick one, and the one with a catchy headline and maybe nice colors will attract you the most to pick it, right? And maybe that book is complete garbage and you shouldn't have read it, or maybe it's like, wow, that book lived up to its promise and it's amazing, right? And
Mm.
it's no different in how we look, is how we are perceived, whether we
Mhm.
like it or not. That just the subconscious mind within the first 7 seconds puts us in a hierarchy and
Mm.
where they see us and how attractive we are and how good we take care of ourselves will give us, let's say, more points. It's not everything, but it's part of what forms that first impression. And I believe the reason we had that topic or convo right before the podcast is, well, I believe for women, they're much more aware of that how
Mm.
they look matters a
Mm.
lot. And women typically take better care of themselves than men. But for many men, they believe that, hey, as long as I make money, a lot of money, I can get away with not being on my A game and not taking good care of my health.
Mm.
And it's like my career, my family life is not dependent on how I look.
Mm.
And I want to challenge that.
I agree with you. I agree with you because I think you're right. If I look at at home, my kids, my 13-year-old daughter that was doing God knows what in terms of skincare and blah 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 and all sorts of stuff and makeup. And my 13-year-old son barely brushes his hair. Like to get him to, brush his hair or put lip balm on because his lips are chapped. It's like, God knows what. So I think it's just natural that females naturally gravitate to making sure that the physical appearance is taken care of and so forth. And guys tend to be a bit more relaxed. I think even though that trend is changing, I think that nowadays generally we're generalizing at the moment. So, okay, so if physical appearance is important and your health is important, then that's the why. How do we improve it? How do we look after ourselves? How do we look at, should we be doing, because here's another example. There, if you look at men, for example, from Korea, right? They have like flawless skins and God knows what they do. So not only the females, but the guys do a lot of stuff. They don't look feminine at all. They're very, masculine, but obviously it's a different kind of masculine. But there's a lot of awareness in skincare there. And if you go into nowadays any health store, there's loads of stuff for men as well. So the beauty market has come a long way. And so is the health market, the proteins and shakes and God knows what else and supplements and blah, blah, blah. So the stuff is there, the market's there. But how do we get started? How do we start looking after ourselves? Do we just pick up, as guys, forget the females, because I think females are a bit more aware, but let's talk about men because you specialize in men. How does a guy who is in his, say, early 40s and his up until now his skincare has been basic or non-existent and health is deteriorating, how would he start looking after his health and his skin?
Yeah, and just to add something to what I said prior, right? Like I believe the reason why men don't prioritize it as much as women is biologically as a man, if we look back thousands of years ago,
Mm.
we're here to provide and protect.
Yes.
And in today's world, with money, you can basically do that. You can provide
Mm.
for
And protect
yourself
and protect.
and your loved ones and some sort protect because we're not going to go, hunting and fighting animals. So to some degree, you also protect your family, well, to a big degree with money, right?
Mm.
And therefore the question again comes to down like why health? Where does that play into when it's not that you can't achieve one without the other. Well, you can be very rich, you can make a lot of money with very poor health. There's a lot of billionaires out
Examples.
there, but you can amplify it, meaning
Mm.
you can produce at a much higher level, focus, energy, performance is going to be better, brain power is going to be better, and you also are going to make more trust when people trust you that when you look like you take care of yourself, they trust you that you can take care of their money and their needs. But if you don't look like you could take good care of yourself, then there's a little bit of incongruence here saying that person, I don't know, like if I should do business with them or give them all that money to invest and take care. Well, they don't have the discipline to take care of themselves, right?
Mm.
So, with all that said, how do we get started? There's nothing that beats the basics from lifting weights, diet, sleep, walking, sunlight exposure, getting in some morning sun. But you talked about skin health and products here, but like the skin is our biggest organ and it's
Yeah.
just a reflection of our gut health.
Yeah.
So if your gut health is great, then or very good, then your skin is just going to reflect that. And if your skin doesn't reflect that, then that will be the first start. And optimal gut health starts again with diet. Like, what am I putting in my body that my gut may not be tolerating, right? And one of the best ways, therefore, to get started is if you get in blood work. Like in the UK, there's a really good uh, clinic that has a very good blood test. Let me actually just look it up. We usually work with people in the US, so we don't have so many people in the UK, but there's a Randox Health. If you want, I can also send you the link. I'm not affiliated or anything with them, but Randox Health, they have two tests, every man and every woman.
Hmm.
And it's a very, very comprehensive test. And you would see there, hey, what's going on in my body? Where's my sugar? Where are my lipids, kidney, liver function, hormones, and immune system. And that could give a snapshot on, hey, what food should I be having more often, maybe less off. Again, if someone is insulin resistant or they have elevated levels of blood sugar, insulin is high, That will also impact their skin,
Mm.
inflammation. So those are just a few things there. But if someone has like the basics in check, they don't have to be perfect, but that's already gonna get them far. And then if you lay the foundation with the blood work in place,
Mm.
that's going to be very helpful to optimize all those things there and get further results, right? And
Mm.
we can go deeper into any topic there if you want, or from those pillars, but I just wanted to lay out the foundation there first.
I think that's an important topic to talk about. So yes, we want to look great. A lot of the time, the beauty industry would have you believe, or right, put the right skin, serum on, and put the right moisturizer on, or whatever have you, and makeup and so forth. And there's makeup for men too, by the way, just for those listening out there. Um, but that's not going to give you the health that you need. So you're saying, let's go deeper. Let's go do blood works. Let's go and do some investigation. Let's figure out where your hormones are. So talk me through, I know hormones are a big issue for females. What issue does hormone play for men?
Yeah, so there are different hormones in both male and female body, but for men, usually as they get to 40, and especially as they get to 50, the big elephant in the room are testosterone levels.
Yeah.
And when testosterone drops, a lot of times we think about it, oh, testosterone, muscle, and sex drive. Well, I'm married. I don't need to go out and chase,
Yeah.
women. I don't need the
Mm.
high sex drive and I don't need a lot of muscle mass, but that can be further from the truth because those are just two things, but
Mm.
there's like way, way more to testosterone. Bone density goes down, which means your risk of having injuries will go
Mm.
up. And it has a huge impact, even more on your mental health and physical health. So
Really? For men?
depression, anxiety, will be through the roof if your testosterone levels are down. You feel much more emotional. You have more mood swings. Focus is down. Energy is going to be down, and you're much less competitive. When men's testosterone levels are very high, you usually see that when they're competing in sports. So let's say take UFC fighters
Mm.
or football players. You have Manchester, let's say City versus United playing, like
Mm.
testosterone levels are going to be at the top on game day because you're competitive.
Mm.
But if your testosterone drops, you're going to be less competitive. And if you're less competitive, your desire to attack and be more hungry in business
Mm.
is going to be down. And then there's someone else that has high levels of testosterone, which can be achieved naturally. And they're just going to be more driven to finish that project on time, to get that promotion, to start that new business, to get that new, project, to land those new clients, to power through that negotiation. And it's going to have a massive impact on their income and career. And there are studies that show that
Mm.
very well as well. That's very well documented. And I think that goes often unheard of or unsaid, where there's still that big picture view of, oh, testosterone, yeah, just for the meatheads in the gym. No, 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 no. Like there's so many benefits, especially to mental health, lowers your cardiovascular risk as well, if done right. Of course, if you take steroid level abuse, then it will have negative side effects. But if you have like natural levels, or if someone is on medicine, like TRT, for example, but they have like a small dose that it fixes deficiency, it can be very, very helpful for those people there to feel optimal and have a very high quality of life. And that's
So
just one hormone, right?
So I think there's such a lack of awareness around this because I feel I've never come across this conversation before where I understand testosterone is important for men and a decline from 40 onwards. But in my mind, I was thinking because even the awareness around perimenopause and menopause is not much. Menopause maybe, but perimenopause isn't. And I thought that's a female issue. I had no idea that the testosterone was in decline from 40 onwards, and especially towards 50, and that causes depression and mental health for men. There's such lack of awareness and lack of conversations around these hormones and the impact they have on your individual health that I think it's astonishing that we don't talk about this more often because it's and most people, in the 40s are, especially this day and age. I think, because I'm from the old generation, it's 80s kid. We are aging differently, so we don't look like we're in 40s, but we are, and the hormones are still, they don't hormones don't care. They're like, okay, time's clicking, and they start impacting your body. And I had no idea that that could impact men in such a severe manner. That they would, have depression and mood swings associated with females with perimenopause and menopause. Why, how can a man have mood swings? First time I'm hearing this, I'm a bit shocked about it. Why do you
Well,
think this is?
most people are not aware of it, and unfortunately, it's very often misdiagnosed. So we've seen it with so many clients. They come to us, and there's so many times on an SSRI, so an antidepressant, SSRI, selective serotonin receptor inhibitor, basically keeps serotonin long in your system, and it makes you more numb, calms you down. And it's like, oh, I don't feel that anxious, I don't feel that depressed, and it's like, well, you don't feel depressed because you're lacking medicine. Like the reason you feel depressed is because there's some sort of hormonal imbalance or imbalance in your brain chemistry, right? Like with your neurotransmitters, your brain
Mm.
chemicals. And when you get blood work done, that's where you would see it. And it just so often misdiagnosed, where it's like, yeah, your testosterone is low. Of course, you feel depressed. Of course, you're tired all the time. Of course, this and this happens. And to, to point or answer to what you said with the mood swings, when men are overweight, they're they have an enzyme in their fat cells that gets, I don't want to say multiplied, but like becomes more abundant.
Mm.
That's called aromatase. And
Okay.
aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen. So now, man, you can be a man, but your body is
Responding
starting
like a
to
female.
become feminized, right?
Yeah.
So you masculate yourself by gaining body fat because of that conversion, and that's why the mood
Wow. I
swings
didn't know.
happen, because estrogen is higher, progesterone will be higher there, and then you have men that are not as grounded and not as calm, not in their zone, so to say, but much more. Again, the mood swings are there. They feel depressed, they feel anxious, and they think like, "What's wrong with me?" And sure, it can be low vitamin D, it can be lack of sunlight in the UK, but if you have it all year long and you can't point at it, that's a really good test. Like, can you point to what makes you feel anxious? Can you point what makes you feel depressed? If it's like, oh yeah, every time my boss comes here or this client or my kids, okay, then it's situational. Doesn't mean it's not hormonal, that your hormones are so low that you have little capacity, but it's situational. You can address it. You can say, all right, I need to handle that situation better with my kids, at work, with my wife, with my spouse, whatever. But if you can't point at it, if it's like, well, it just comes and goes, it's up and down. You can't point at it. And that also goes for women. It's not something in your environment or a situation. It's 99% hormonal. Like
Mm.
something is off in your body. You need different or more vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, amino acids, that your body has for the raw materials to build those hormones and those brain chemicals. And again, that test is really, really good, because if you can't point at it and it just comes and goes, that tells you it something inside needs to be
Yeah.
uh, audited, inspected.
Agreed. I find it shocking how we've come so far and only started talking about this over the last decade or so, I think, especially when it comes to male health. I think we know for a fact that the suicide rates in men is a lot higher than women. We know that, right? And the age you're talking about seems to correlate with the decline in testosterone. That's the most suicide rates for men are around this age. And we haven't even addressed this idea. I find that I really do find that shocking that we blame everything else, pressures and family lives and so forth. And I like to think I'm very well informed, and I like to talk about men and females' health and so forth, right? And I had no idea that this could be impacted in such a way that it's not just about your, literally because other people think you're better looking and they give you more opportunities. It's actually innate within yourselves being able to think logically and practically and sort of tap into your masculine energy to be able to move forward. I think it's shocking to know that we're not aware of it. So now that we do, so moving
Sorry
forward.
to interrupt you, just to add something there, right? Like you said, with the suicide rate for men and the pressure, and people ask themselves like, yeah, but or tell themselves, yeah, the pressure is higher, and I can't handle it anymore. That's right, but why were you able to handle the same pressure 10, 15 years ago, and now you can't?
Mm,
It's like, why?
mm,
So if your hormones decline or have declined over the past 2 decades, your bucket is smaller,
yeah,
right? So you have less gasoline. So your car will drive less far.
yeah.
It's exactly that. And there's, talking about suicide, there's it was years ago, I think 5 years ago or so, maybe less, on Joe Rogan. There was a guy, he talked exactly about that. He had a gun in his mouth and he was about to end his life, he said. And then someone told him, hey, wait, let's get in blood work. It may be your testosterone. And he got in blood work and he started to make lifestyle changes. And he said it was a dramatic change. He never thought. He took every medicine on planet, didn't help. And he said the gun was already in his mouth. He just, wanted to kill himself. He was so depressed and so emotional. And that shift in lifestyle just changed everything for him. And as his T levels went up, so did his quality of life. It's an unbelievable interview that he gave there.
And which correlates
Sorry,
to what we're
go
talking
ahead.
about.
I think you wanted to ask about the how and what can be done.
So yes, but my question was, how do we move forward from this? I mean, I'm a bit flabbergasted about the fact that I didn't know about it, and I talked to so many different really intelligent people, and we had multiple discussions and conversations about men and men's mental health because I'm quite I really do believe we need to talk more about that. And I bring in as many guests as possible to talk about men's mental health and discuss ways to help them. But this is the first time I've been introduced to the idea that it could be decline in hormones, which is impacting the mental health. Because I think most people's idea of testosterone is it builds muscle. It's there to look good. It's made to look, makes you look sexy and hot and physically attractive. The idea that it has more of an impact on your emotional side and your mental health was it's never understood by me, or at least until today. So how can an individual start looking to make sure that they sort of rectify the hormones? So once they've gone to this clinic or whatever clinic they have in their area, and they've done the blood works, and this has been identified that your testosterone level is low, how do they go about rectifying it and sorting that out?
Yeah, first step is truly getting extensive blood work and not just your testosterone levels or your estrogen levels, because yeah, you have the result, but you need like a full comprehensive report. That's one report I shared there is really good, but you could go to any doctor or primary care physician lab, get like a full list. You could copy that list from that report and bring it somewhere else. There, it's ultimately about the result. And because once you have that, you'll see how all the organs and different systems of the body, what the status is. Versus if you just look at testosterone, okay, it's low, but we don't know why. So we need to understand why. Is it a mineral deficiency? Is it this and this and this? So with the right type of blood work, we will not see everything, but it gives us indications on what's going on. And the second thing is when you have blood work, when you go to any lab in the UK, the US, anywhere in the world, usually you have conventional medicine ranges, so the traditional ranges on the blood work. And you may be normal across the board, but normal doesn't mean optimal. Normal just means that's the minimal effective dose to keep you from having a disease, right? But that doesn't mean you're most optimal. So if you look at it, testosterone ranges in America, for example, in the US, in 2006, they used to be 450 on the low end, and the high end was 1,596, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Today, about almost 20 years later, the lower range is 250 and the upper range is 900. So just because it was adjusted doesn't change the fact that you may not be optimized there, right? Because if you had gotten the same blood test 20 years ago, and let's say your testosterone was 380, well,
You'd be below.
the doc would have said, hey, you're deficient, you need to do something now. And now you're 380 because they pushed the range down to 250. Oh, you're still fine, you're still normal, right? So the point is, normal does not mean optimal. And we need to understand it. So we want to look at it more through a functional range where usually on the markers that you want to be low, they should be in the bottom third, and the markers you want to be high should be in the upper third. Not for all, but that's like a really good rule of thumb there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you want to do. And then address the deficiencies and reverse those through lifestyle, diet, exercise, sunlight, supplementation, and so on. So if you look specifically at testosterone, the biggest driver is going to be sleep. Most of your testosterone is produced during sleep, specifically REM sleep. So you could get something like an Oura Ring or a Fitbit and another tracking device that measures your sleep, and there you would see how's your sleep, not just quantity, but also quality and how much REM sleep are you getting? Because again, that's where the testosterone factory is, so to say. Uh, Next one is diet quality. So are you getting all the minerals and vitamins that your body needs to produce testosterone? So vitamin D, boron, magnesium, zinc, those can be factors there. And also making sure that you have good quality of food. So is it organic, if possible, pasture raised, grass fed, wild caught fish? Next one is sleep. So if you're stressed all the time, your stress hormone cortisol is going to be high, and cortisol shuts down testosterone. It's very simple. Also for women, it's the same thing. If you're stressed, your body doesn't see the need to reproduce. So why would it raise reproductive hormones?
Yeah.
That is a big one there. And then losing body fat, again, because of the aromatization of testosterone to estrogen, is going to be a big one. And then supplements, there's some supplements that can help to raise testosterone naturally and be cofactors there when it comes to testosterone production. So, there's some limited research that resistance training helps, but I've seen men with high levels of testosterone that came into our program already, natural before lifting and never lifted or haven't lifted in a year. So I haven't seen it do that much. That doesn't mean that lifting weights is not important. It's very important for other reasons. It should not be like the number one first reason there, but basically sleep, stress, and diet are going to be absolutely key there. A pomegranate juice is something that has been shown as well to boost testosterone levels. So something I drink a few times a week. Very, very good. Has a lot of antioxidants. Improves sperm quality. So if you want more kids, something to drink there, and also raises T levels.
So my question to you is, while you're saying all this, and thank you for that information, there's quite a lot of information there actually, which is brilliant. why do you think the testosterone levels have dropped over the years? And I have some ideas about it. I really do think that the work, the woke, not the work, the work ideology and the way the world is going, we're killing off masculine men. I really do believe that. I think this, we don't respect men for their masculinity anymore. We want to feminize them as much as possible. By the other hand, we want to masculinize females as much as possible, and females who are tough and butch, I'm your in your face kind of person is, you know, appreciated more than the feminine females. But do you think that's the reason why? Because that's the only logical reason that comes to my mind.
I don't believe it's one thing, and I only believe the woke, let's call it woke virus, can only
Yeah,
take
I call
over.
it. Yeah, it's a virus. It's
Yeah.
a bloody virus. I agree with you.
You could say this high levels of testosterone or the antivirus
Mm,
to the woke virus, but I only believe that men with lower levels of testosterone will be impacted by that, or someone that has high levels of testosterone naturally is also very masculine, much more, yeah, much more in their masculine energy, and they will usually act differently when it comes to that woke ideology, especially if they have like traditional picture of family and the way they view the world. But to answer your question, I believe there are multiple things that have impacted that decline. One is increasing body fat. You know,
mm,
people today are at an all-time high in terms of being overweight and obese.
mhm,
Number two is we're much more inside and much less outside than
mm,
we used to be. So we're much more white collar than blue collar in terms of jobs. And because of that, you're much less active, and activity plays a role there. You have less sunlight exposure when you're
inside.
inside versus outside, which will have an impact on your vitamin D levels, which are a cofactor for testosterone. Sleep has gotten worse. We're much more on our phones and TVs compared to just 10, 20 years ago. We eat out a lot more, Uber Eats and Bolt and all that stuff, and processed food, which has a lot more chemicals and a lot less nutrients versus cooking our meals. And I would say the last one would be microplastics in the environment. So we drink a lot more from plastic bottles. We have underwear that has BPA in there that is shown to lower testosterone levels, also impact fertility for women. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's one thing, but well, if there's one thing, it's the modern world. But I don't think it's one thing. It's just
A number of
the
factors.
yeah the byproduct of living in a modern world. In fact, the modern world is actually a battlefield or a challenge to it's an environment that makes getting in shape, being healthy, an uphill battle. It's not
Mm,
designed to be healthy. So you have to really fight it and be very disciplined to make it work long term.
agreed. 100%. 100%. So on that note, we're gonna wrap this up, Mario. We could this is such an interesting conversation. We could talk for hours. I'm completely I'm lost for words actually. I'm just flabbergasted at the amount of lack of knowledge, I should say, not the amount, the lack of knowledge that I had around men's mental health due to a simple hormone. Obviously, it has other factors associated with it, but I wouldn't have thought so. And while you were talking about it, because I have a teenage son, he's just turned 14. I kept thinking about him, thinking, okay, what is impacting him and how is it, what's going on with him? And I mean, he's got baby fat at the moment, which I'm hoping he gets rid of it as he shoots up. I mean, he's taller than me, but I'm hoping he gets over 6 foot. Fingers crossed he does. So he will, as he gains height, lose that fat, but he plays football and he's quite active. But I'm just thinking of him, when he turns 40 in 30 something years. What I just kept thinking about him while you were talking, and I just imagine him being a 40-year-old having all these issues because testosterone going down, and if things carry on going the way they are, we're much more dependent on AI and our screens and TV and, even cars, which are probably by then definitely self-driving cars. It's just the whole thing that our health, you're absolutely right. It's a battlefield. To regain your health is a battlefield. It's not going to be an easy task. And
Oh,
and I think females were much more open to asking for help. I know
yes.
I have no issue asking for help, but men don't. And it unless they have somebody in their life to say, okay, let's get this you help, get you some help. Let's get you a health coach. Let's get you a fitness coach or whatever. Then themselves wouldn't even think about it. The idea of coach is someone in the gym, not actually a health coach. Does it make sense?
Yeah,
So
men believe it's all about hard work.
yes.
And while that is true, and so they think, hey, there's only hard work. That's usually how dad taught it to them, which is true. There's only hard work and there's no shortcuts, but that's not true. Mentorship, coaching is the shortcut there, but you have to put the ego aside. If it's just like, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, and you don't admit that there's something going on, then it's a very big mistake that the ego keeps men from reaching their full potential.
100%, 100%. On that note, we'll
Also,
wrap.
just yeah,
Yeah.
just one thing to add to what he said with the testosterone medication. I just think if we look back at the last 20 years, you know, people have, let's say 2005 maybe to 2015, testosterone has been associated mainly with like bodybuilders, like, oh, it's like the bodybuilders, they need that. And it was almost like a crime to talk about it. And now, like the last, maybe not 10 years, but let's say 5 years,
Hmm.
people have become much more aware. It's like, hey, it's not just the bodybuilders, like it impacts everyone, even women. Like women who are, PCOS, insulin resistant,
Yeah.
they will have too high androgens and their voice changes, facial hair. So they are also impacted by that as well, right? Where men have too little and now women are starting to have too much testosterone, right?
Yeah.
But I think the last 5 years there's been a shift, and men especially, but people are more aware of the physical impact and longevity impact. And I think the next few years the mental health impact is gonna come. But yeah, people, especially doctors, most doctors are very behind on that. And depression is still looked at, oh, that guy's just depressed, it's a midlife crisis. Where just as menopause, there's something that's called andropause, and
Hmm.
it's the same thing for men.
100%. And I mean, I think and also I think females are more open to talking about it. Like I'm not embarrassed about talking about perimenopause or menopause. Absolutely not. Perimenopause is an important part of my life at the moment. So why would I be shy away from talking about it? But men are. Men don't want to talk about these things. They're like, oh, forget about it. They want to brush under the carpet and leave it there, whereas they need to be having these conversations, and we need to have strong masculine men talking about these conversations, which makes it acceptable to men who are not as masculine and not as strong, to say that no, it's not weakly thing to be talking about. It's something important, and we should be discussing these things because it impacts not just our physical health but our mental health, and that impacts the whole world around you. But anyway, on that note, we'll wrap up now. Tell everybody, Maria, where can we find you on the internet? How can we connect with you?
Yeah, two ways. Go to social media, either Facebook or Instagram, put in my name. Number two, you can go to sixpackceo.com, six with the letter six, packceo.com.
Wonderful. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, the link for Mario would be on the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, down below in the description section, we'll have the links for Mario too. Do check him out and see how he can help you build better health. Thank you so much for coming today, Mario. You have made me aware of so many things that I was completely oblivious to. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your generosity and for being so candid and open with us. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you very much for having me on a second time. This was great.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for listening to me and Maria today. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull Khan signing off. Take care and bye for now.